We're learning the Sikha of Teves and Chelek Tezvav on page 382. This is actually really a Chanukah Sikha which will connect Chanukah to Teves. Since Teves, Rosh Chodesh Teves, in the beginning of the month of Teves, is in Chanukah time. This shir is being learned L'Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Rosh Chodesh Teves is allemal from the Yemei Chanukah. Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month of Teves, is always part of the days of Chanukah. So now it's known as Rosh Chodesh is Kailol Ala Tek von Chodesh. The head of the month, the Rosh of the month, includes in it all the days of the month. Was the far, werd angerufen Rosh. Therefore, the head of the month is called a head. It's not called the beginning of the month. Vi Rosh kipshute, like a head literally. Was is Kailol Ala Evari Aguf. It includes all the limbs of the body. The energy of everything else and all the functions that come out in the body afterwards is first all there included in the head. And from there, it comes out to the body. It's verstandig, so it's understood as alle Tag von Chodesh Teves, all the days of the month of Teves, for seinen Kol and Chodesh Teves that are included in the Rosh, in the head of the month of Teves, haben a Shayches zu Yemei Chanukah. So the month of Teves has a special connection to the month of Chanukah, or to the Yom Tov of Chanukah rather, to the days of Chanukah. Additionally, as an Adon Chodesh Teves Tzvei Yom Miyochadim. In the month of Teves there are two special days. Der Tzayim von Asara B'Teves, there's the fast day of the 10th of Teves, which is the day that the siege was placed on the city of Yerushalayim. And the Yom Hilula von Alten Rebbe Chavdal Teves, and the Hilula, the yard site of the Alten Rebbe, which was on Chavdal Teves. V'balt as does any Yomim Kvuim in dem Chodesh. Since these are set dates in this month, is Mistave Loima, it's logical to say, as es is da a Shayches zwischen die Tag und der Teichen Kloli von dem Chodesh. There's some special connection of what the content of these days are to what the month of Teves in general represents. As was spoken about this concept many times, that whenever you have any Yom Tov or a Yom Pagra, anything in a month, so it's connected to the theme of that month in general. So what does it say in Chazal that's unique about the month of Teves? Teves is right in the middle of the winter. So the Gemara says, wegen Chodesh Teves sagen Chazal, the Gemara says about the month of Teves, from Pasuk, the Pasuk in the Megillah where it says, Vatilokach Esther ala melech Achashverosh. Esther was taken as a wife to the king Achashverosh. And when was this? B'chodesh o asiri hu Chodesh Teves. In the 10th month, which is the month of Teves. And the Gemara explains why Hashem had it Pashkacha Pratis, that it should be in this month. As this is a yerach shehaguf nenem min aguf. This is a month where the body has pleasure from a body. So therefore she found favor in the eyes of Achashverosh, and that's when she got married to him. The far was in dem Chodesh is then in Greise Kelten. The reason is because this is the month where it's very cold. Balosh and Rashi there spells it out, mipnei hatzina. It's because of the cold. Is da the anas aguf min aguf. So this pleasure a body has from the warmth of a body. That's the Gemara that describes. So basically the month of Teves is the time when it's the coldest in the year. Everything that is here in the world physically evolves from what it is in its spiritual sense. Is binyaneinu. So over here as well, regarding the month of Teves, the kridus von Chodesh Teves begashmiyes, the cold of the month of Teves physically, nemt sich davon. What's the source of this? Was in dem Zman, is in this time of the month, is Shemesh Havaya, the sun, which represents the revelation of godliness, as the pasuk says, Ki Shemesh Umogen Havaya Elikim, the sun and its shield are representing the two names of the Eibishter, Havaya and Elikim. Havaya is a greater revelation of godliness. So the Shemesh, which is Havaya, is nit mehr as Ebegilian Welt. It's not revealed, it's not so shining so much in the world. Elikos is Mechusim Mer and dem Helem Vehester von Levushiyat Teva. This is the time of the year that represents the cover and the concealment of the garments of nature that cover over the Eibishter's presence in the world. And it's known what it explains in other places as the Teikiv Zrichas Hashemesh and Chodshei HaKayitz, the fact that in the summer months, so the sun shines stronger and the warmth of the sun is felt in the world, is Oichasimin. This is also a sign for the fact of them Teikiv Oir V'chaim the Kedusha from Shemesh Havaya. There's a big intensity of the light and the warmth of holiness of the sun of the Eibishter, which comes into the world. Und der Fahr ist in the Chadashim geringet zuzukommen zu Avedas Hashem wie im Winter der Chadashim. And therefore, in the months, the summer months, it's easier to come to serve Hashem because of this revelation than it is in the winter months. Und Dafke, Mahai Taime, ist da an Ilui in der Aveda von Chodesh Teves, legabe der Aveda von anderen Chadashim. And it's explained that this itself is actually the reason why there's a greater advantage to a person's Aveda in the month of Teves more than the other months of the year. Because it's in this time of the year that a person has to work harder to connect to the Eibishter with his own Aveda, and he doesn't have that revelation from above, so there's a big advantage to this Aveda. In the continuation of the Sikha, the Rebbe will explain the advantage of the Aveda of the winter, and especially of Teves, on a much deeper level, as we'll see. Und da seine Chazal Meram is in the Maimer. So this is what Chazal are hinting to us when they tell us that the month of Teves is the month when a body has pleasure from a body. So what is this hinting to? It doesn't only mean physically in this world, but it's also vas ish vi isha, a man and a woman, a husband and wives, and an amoshel of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Knesset Yisrael. This is an analogy for the relationship between Yidden and the Eibishter. And what does this mean? So when it says here, ish and isha, and the guf, nanim and aguf, it refers to the Eibishter having hana, the pleasure of the Yidden's Aveda in this world. As the Aveda from Yidden in dem Chaydish, the Aveda that Yidden do in this month, when it says dot sina ba'ilam, when the world is cold, is gairim hana lamayla. This brings a greater pleasure above, and simply again the pshat here is because Yidden are working harder to connect to Hashem in this month. Okay, so that's the basic point about what's special in the month of Teves. But the Rebbe now is going to go more specifically into the actual lashon that Chazal say that it's a body that derives pleasure of a body, and to understand what that means between the Eibishter and Yidden. Yeah, the Indian in Teres b'diok, everything it says in Teres is precise. It's verstandig, so if so it's understood. As the diak aloshen shaguf nanem and aguf, the specific words that the Gemara says that it's the body that gets pleasure from a body, and the Rebbe is emphasizing here guf is masim zum pirish apnimi anal, is also fitting with the deeper pshat that it refers to the relationship between Yidden and the Eibishter. As das meint hanas HaKadosh Baruch Hu von der Aveda von Yidden, this refers to the pleasure Hashem has in Yidden's Aveda. So there's something unique about the idea of the body, the guf. What is that? Well, das was lamayla is da no from the Aveda in Chodesh Teves, the fact that the Eibishter has pleasure in the Aveda of Yidden in this month of Teves is das beikir from dem guf von a Yidden. It's primarily in this month where the Aveda of a Yidden with his physical body that is expressed. Und the ana, that's one point, guf, that it's the guf of the Yidden, and also und the ana is in den Darge von Elokus was wird kavayachol angerufen guf. And in what level does this pleasure of the Yidden reach to? Where is and what level of godliness? Is there pleasure in the level of godliness that's referred to as the guf? As the Rabbi will explain soon what this expression means when we talk about godliness. So what is unique about this Aveda in the month of Teves, that it's the Aveda of the guf, of the physical part of the Yid? So the explanation here is as follows. Everything that we see happening in the big world is verbunden mit Avedas Adam. Everything is connected to the Aveda that a Yid does in his life, the Olam Katan, the small world, the person. So if so, coming back to the difference between the Aveda of the summer months and the winter months, and here the Rebbe will explain this in a much deeper way. The Chodshi HaKayetz, the summer months, when the Shemesh Havai is Meir Begilium Welt, when you have the revelation of godliness in the world, is the Zman Be'ikir von Avedas HaNeshama. This is the time where the main Aveda is a person utilizing the powers of his Neshama to serve Hashem. In dem Zman is the Guf Nita Zeifel Mailam Master of Neir Neshama. This is a time when the physical body is not so much of a concealment on the revelation of the Neshama. Und der Fahr kann ubemele darf a Yid sich misasik sein in Inyani HaNeshama. So therefore this is the time when a Yid can and therefore must be busy with utilizing those powers of his neshama that are more accessible, and that the person should begin sensing the revelation of his neshama. That's the main aveda of the summer months. The revelation of the godliness of the sun, which is represented in the shining of the sun, is also the revelation of the neshama of a Yid in his small world, which is more accessible for a Yid to deal with, or to work with, or to serve Hashem with. The Rebbe adds that doesn't mean that the Aveda does not include dealing with the body as well. And although as to leave der Avodah Musbim Bavaran as the Gov soll nit sein an Neufen von Chumrius Vegasus, even for this Avodah, to a Yid to focus on his neshama and to feel the sensitivity of the connection of his neshama, he still will have to take care of his body, which he's living in a body as well, even in the time of the summer months, and the body has its coarseness and its lowliness that could drag a person down, so he's going to have to make sure that the body doesn't drag him down. Even in the summer months, the neshama is in a body. And therefore the neshama is only revealed in and through the body. So in order for a person to be able to serve the Eibishter, he's going to have to synchronize his body to the neshama, that it should be a keli, it should be a vessel to be able to serve Hashem. So seemingly, even in the summer months, where the main avodah is to deal with your neshama and to access your neshama, but nevertheless, you are a neshama b'guf, and you also will have to elevate your body to be able to come along. So, but the Rebbe explains, though, the nature of the avodah here in this time period is das not a hachane zu dem Eden's ikar avodah, that the guf should not disturb, or even more so, that the guf should be a keli to the revelation of the neshama. This is only a preparation for the main focus of what his avodah is, which means dem tzudek was his ma'ilem amasta avodah neshama. He removes the cover which conceals over the light of the neshama. Kidei as alkanen denach zayin an over the Hashem b'neshmasa. The main focus is to focus on his neshama, on the revelation of his connection that the neshama has. The body should not conceal this. And even if the body can be a keli to the neshama, but we're not focusing on refining the actual body itself. That's not what it's about. It's about the guf becoming a keli to the neshama being revealed, because this is the time period of the year where the neshama is more accessible, and therefore a person can focus on connecting with his neshama to the Eibishter. Which is not the case when it comes to this winter months. This is a different type of avodah. When the shemesh havaya leichnet as I feel, the light of the Eibishter does not shine in the world as much. Uns is as man from kriris, and therefore it's a time where it's more cold, even physically. Demold is ikir avodas adam avodas guf. So because the neshama is not shining, so what's emphasized in the person's life? His body. He feels his body, the gashmias of himself, and therefore what's the main avodah? To deal with this body, with what the nature of the body is, and to discover in the body itself what it is and how it could become a servant of Hashem. So harvin in the avodah from birur v'zichach haguf, to work hard to refine and elevate the physical body itself, that the body should become a servant of Hashem. Not just to be there as a bystander, or at least to be there quietly, not to disturb the neshama, or even just to be there as a keli for the revelation of the neshama in it, but more so, to reveal what the truth of the entity of the body itself, that it is a servant of Hashem. That's the focus of the month of Teves. And in the winter months itself, we're specifically focusing on the month of Teves. There's a difference between the month of Teves and the other winter months. In the andere Chadashim, in the other winter months, is nachfaran a gewisse chaim ba'ilam. There is still a little bit of leftovers from the heat of the summer months, or from the following summer that's coming when you come to the end of the winter. Und das meint, what that means is, as der Zichuch from Kriris Agov, kommt euch mitzad de gile euch chaim neshama. That even when a person is working with his body in the other winter months, it still has some influence of the revelation of the neshama that's contributing to his aveda, to his connection to Hashem. But here comes right the center, the middle, the winter itself, the height of the winter, which is in Teves. Vazdan is tachlis akar bailam. That's the coldest month of the year. What this refers to is the condition of the person from Helem v'hester aguf, when there's the Helem that the guf conceals on the light of the neshama to such an extent, there's no remnants of revelation of the neshama that's influencing or inspiring the yid. Und dann besteht die Aveda from Birur v'zichuch haguf, and so now the Aveda consists of dealing with this body and revealing the truth of what the body is. Not by revealing the light of the neshama, nor minaguf mitzader guf alein. It comes from the body to reveal the godliness that there is within the body itself, that it becomes a servant of Hashem. It's not exactly how a person reveals the power of what the body itself has to serve Hashem without accessing the revelation or the inspiration of the neshama. The Rebbe will explain in Sif Hey. But before this, the Rebbe brings a story of the Baal Shem Tov and explains beautifully what this story teaches us. He shared the following story of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov had sehr lieb gehabt Lichtigkeit. The Baal Shem Tov loved light. It should be a lit area. Einmal a well-lit area. Einmal in a winterdige Nacht. So once it was a winter night, haben die Talmidei Baal Shem Tov nicht gehabt genug Licht auf zu beleuchten the shul. And the students of the Baal Shem Tov in the shul did not have enough light to illuminate the shul. Hat the Baal Shem Tov gesagt, so the Baal Shem Tov told them, as man soll nehmen von Dach, they should take from the roof the Eis Lichtalach und sie anzünden. You have the icicles that are there by the roof. Take off these icicles and they will be candles. And light them and they'll burn. Haben die Talmidim also getan. The Talmidim listened to the Baal Shem Tov and they did so. Und sie haben gebrennt. And miraculously these icicles burnt. And they were like candles. Icicle candles. Hat der Tzemach Tzedek of them gesagt. The Tzemach Tzedek said about the story, it's not just about the miracle here, but there's a great message here. By the followers and by the students of the Baal Shem Tov, haben Eis Lichtelach gebrennt und geleuchtet. Even icicles became candles that burnt and were shining. This is the story. So this is the message that's connected to the point here of this sikha about the month of Teves. The Baal Shem Tov at Bavizin, the Baal Shem Tov demonstrated with the eyes lichtelach alein that these icicles as candles themselves. For zeh zene dis samech hepech von eure chamimos. What are icicles? They are the complete opposite of light and warmth. It's frozen. It's the absolute coldness. Ver nepach zu eure chaim. The icicles themselves could become a source of light and heat. Das heißt, and how does this happen? As they brennen is nit given ba'ofen. When they burned, it wasn't in such a way as is eine geworden ois mitzias von eis. That somehow these icicles, or by a miracle, these icicles turned into candles. That's not what happened. No, their eyes gufe verbleibendig b'mitziusa v'tziyuroi. These actual icicles, remaining icicles, is geworden adova meya. They lit it. And it burnt a fire from the icicles themselves. This is the point over here that we're saying about the month of Teves as well. The point there is to transform the actual coldness and darkness itself into holiness. And the point there is not only as it's not by introducing a light of the neshama from another place and therefore then sort of nullifying the nature of the guf and introducing the neshama, and the neshama is really what's shining. No, but it's more than that. Nor mitzad dem guf atzmai, the physical body itself, to discover in it what this physical body itself is, that it should begin shining and creating warmth. So now, as I said, the Rebbe comes back here to explain, so what does this mean? How is this possible? If we're not revealing the light of the neshama, because it's the month of Teves where the light of the neshama is completely concealed, so what is the light that you reveal within the guf itself? Wie kann man mahapich sein, dem guf, as soll rausgehen von sein Gasses v'chumriyes, und werden a guf kodesh begili? How is it possible to transform the physical body, that it should leave its coarseness, and it should become a holy body, and it should be revealed that it's a holy body? Und nit mitzat neshama. And the point there is not to reveal the light of the neshama to overpower the body, nor mitzad der gufnius vasanim. The actual physicality, the grabkeit of the guf itself should start shining. What is this? Is the beard in them? So the explanation here is as follows. The truth is that not only does the body also have holiness, but on the contrary, dafke der guf hot a shaychus atzmus. It's specifically the physical body that has a direct connection to the essence of the Eibishter himself, even more than the connection that the neshama has to godliness. The neshama is b'muhusa shayach be'iker to b'chinas ervegili. The neshama, which is a spiritual entity, which has the revelation of godliness, so its connection to the Eibishter is defined by the fact that it's a revelation. It's an entity which has a nature of revealing godliness. It is an entity of godliness. That's what its godliness and its godly connection consists of. Und der Fall is euch ihres kashrus belokos durch giliyar. So therefore, how do you describe the connection that the neshama has to its source? Its connection consists of the fact that it's spiritual and it's godly. And that's what its connection consists of, and therefore there's a certain limitation in its connection, that it's an expression and a revelation of godliness that is its connection. But when it comes to the physical body of a Yid, over here there is no spirituality, there is no revelation, there is no godliness, there's no milah, there's no advantage you see in the body. So what is it? What is the connection of the body to Hashem? The Yiddish guf of the guf of a Yid to the Eibishter, von a Yidden, is da b'chiras ha'atzmos. Here, this is the Eibishter chose a Yid to be his. Who does the Eibishter choose? The physical body. The Far is therefore bund von Gashmi is a guf. So therefore, the connection of the physical body to a Yid, to the Eibishter, that is, mitalakus, with godliness, tife wie der Verbund was wer durch eire Neshama. It's much deeper than the connection that there is with the light of the Neshama. Weil dafke and geshem aguf, it's in the physical body, is da kaviyachol der koyach ha'atzmos was his hecha von Neshama. There is the choice that the Eibishter himself chose the physical body. As it's explained in many places, the idea of choice is not when there's something that has a certain advantage that doesn't have to be chosen. It's just the advantage itself, it's sort of already chosen. The idea of choice is that you have the physical body of a Yid that seems to be the same as the physical body of a guy, and Hashem chooses the Yid because he chooses, because Hashem himself is completely undefined. There's no light, darkness, there's nothing that defines him, and therefore he chooses without any rules, and he chooses the Yid. And that's only expressed in the physical entity of the Yid, which is not the case, which is, as the Rebbe says, which is much higher than the Neshama. The Neshama is not the Eibishter himself choosing, it's a certain expression of the Eibishter in the godliness of the entity of the Neshama, which is a very deep connection, but still defined by what this godly expression is. Nor der koyach ha'atzmos shebeguf. However, the Rebbe says, this power of the choice of the Eibishter himself in the physical body, vert nisgale dafke in azman von Helen v'Hester. When is this revealed? It's revealed specifically in a time when there is a great concealment. When says nit meir der giluyah neshama, when the light of the neshama is not shining, das ruft reis der koyach ha'atzmos was is nit mugder chas v'shalom egeder ha'giluy. So this itself, that this is a time and a place and a situation where there is no revelation at all. So adarabah, this reveals the essence of the Eibishter, which is not defined by revelation. It's not defined by a situation which is godly, so to speak, and here the Eibishter himself is present. The Eibishter himself, which is not defined by anything, is present and chooses the physical body. And thus is the Pirish Apnimi. So now we come back to the Gemara and we understand much deeper the meaning of what it says in Guf Nene Mina Guf. When the Gemara says that the month of Teves, the coldest month of the year, is the time when the physical body has pleasure from a body. What does this refer to? Guf. When we say here regarding the Eibishter and referring to the Eibishter with the expression of guf, so guf is toichnoi ke toichen lashon atzmos. The word guf means the same meaning that Chassidus always says, the term that it uses when it speaks about the Eibishter himself. No expressions, no revelations, but the Eibishter himself. So we talk about atzmos, the essence of Hashem. The word guf in the language of Gemara refers to the Eibishter himself. V'dulashon gufei halachas. The expression to use in the Gemara, gufei halachas, meaning the actual halachas themselves. No other details, no other applications, but the actual halachas themselves. Or the lashon that says in Zoya, gufa de malka, the body of the king himself. In other words, the king himself, no aspects of him. The chayetze b'zeh, we find similar expressions. So what is this Chazal saying here? The anah von atzmus halakos, the, so to speak, pleasure of the very essence of the Eibishter himself is be'ikir, is primarily nit von aropnem and dem helam agof. It's not by removing the concealment that the body creates, kedei azol zayin giluyah neshama, in order to allow the godly revelation of the neshama in the world, nor rather min haguf. It's from the actual body itself, as the guf atzmai, the actual physical body, mitzad atzmai, coming all from him himself without an inspiration of the neshama, vet nepach l'kedusha, becomes completely transformed into holiness. Das wird aufgetan dafke mipnei atzina, and this is accomplished, as Rashi says, when the lashon of Rashi mipnei atzina, in the time of Teves, which is the cold, meaning that the cold itself. The fact that there's a Helen v'Hester and there's no revelation, that itself causes, in a Zman von Helen v'Hester canal, in a time when there's concealment, that causes that the essence of the Eibishter, that's not defined by anything, not by revelation, not by anything else, should be expressed in this kind of Aveda, in the Aveda of the physical body. So the Rebbe continues now and it shows, according to this, the connection of the month of Teves to the Yom Tov of Chanukah. And das ist the Shaykhis from Chodesh Teves to Yemei Chanukah. So with this we understand the connection of Teves to the days of Chanukah. What does it tell us about Chanukah? The Neres Chanukah is in Yonom Tzuevton as V'Havaye Yagia Choshki. The pasuk that's quoted in the Maimonim, in Torah and other places, that Chanukah is the time that V'Havaye will make darkness glow. What does this mean? So Balaychten dem Choshech, it's to illuminate the darkness, but even more, Biz as Euch dem Choshech was is da, and Shusarabim Bachutz, that the darkness that there is in the public domain on the outside, to illuminate this darkness, but even more so, Bizaz Yagia Choshki. What does Yagia Choshki mean? Der Choshech Alein is Magia Umeir, that the actual darkness itself begins to glow and shine. So it's not only about bringing light into a place of darkness, but by revealing how the darkness itself glows. Und der Koyach of them is von V'Havaye b'Toysus Vav. As it says in the Maimonim that it's the Vav, the extra Vav of V'Havaye means was weiß the B'chinas Alokos Shalamayla Mishtal Shal is drawing down a level of godliness that's higher than the system of the way things are in creation. Havaye Delayla, the level of Havaye Delayla, the V'Havaye that goes beyond the definitions of light and darkness. That a place of darkness is void of godliness. It's not that way. The Eibishter himself is everywhere. There's nothing left out of his presence, and therefore V'Havaye reveals the truth that the darkness itself is godliness. Das ist bedugmet zum von Guf nennen Guf. This is the same idea of what the theme of the month of Teves is, that the body, in other words, the essence of the Eibishter derives pleasure of the Aveda of a Yid with the physical body, as Misad Atzmos, Guf and Elokos, the essence of the Eibishter, the essence of godliness, vet euch der Choshech Haguf Atzmai Nepach L'Kedusha. So the darkness of the physical body itself is transformed into holiness. So we clearly see here the connection of the Aveda of Chanukah and the theme of the Aveda of the month of Teves. Now the Rebbe connects this to the dates that there are in this month, Asara B'Teves, and then the Rebbe will explain the connection to Chavdala Teves. V'chlalos is thus the chiluk from the Aveda b'Zman HaBayis and the Aveda in Zman HaGolus. So generally, this is the difference between the Aveda in the time of the Beis HaMikdash and in the time when Yidden are in exile. B'Zman HaBayis is given Gilia L'Kusenvelt. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, it's a time of revelation of godliness in the world. There's Asara Nisim, the 10 Nisim that Nasal Avaseni B'Beis HaMikdash that occurred to our forefathers in the Beis HaMikdash, v'chulu, and other things of revelation that there are in that time period. Hashenkin is Zman HaGolus. How do we describe Golus? Is like we see no signs of godliness in the time of Golus. Alukus is behelim v'hester. Godliness is concealed and covered. Biz as a choshech yichas haaretz. Darkness covers the whole world. And then, so specifically in the time of Golus, is the Aveda from Ve'avai Yagia Choshki, to draw down and reveal the godliness within the darkness itself, that the darkness begins to glow. We can also connect this back to Chanukah and to the natives of the Menorah and so on. As das is euch in dem Tam Pnimi, this is the deeper reason, was natives Chanukah einom beteilen loilam. The Medrash says that the natives of Chanukah will never be bottled. It's always all generations we light natives Chanukah. And it's a mitzvah continues even in the time of Golus. Nit wie Neides HaMikdash, was kashe'ein Beis HaMikdash kayem, when the Beis HaMikdash is not standing, af ha-Neides Mikdash beteilos. So the Neides of the Beis HaMikdash are bottled, we can't light it. Chotsch, as Neides Chanukah, zene doch ha-Zeichet zum Nes, was is geschehen mit Neides Mikdash. Even though the Neides Chanukah are only here to commemorate the miracle that occurred with the Neides of the Beis HaMikdash. But nevertheless, there's an advantage to the Neides Chanukah. And the reason is, weil Neides Mikdash zenen am Shachas ha'oyer ha'shayich el un in Seder Shtalshalus. The Neides of the Beis HaMikdash represents a level of light which has some association with, it's related somewhat to the Seder Shtalshalus. So the Rebbe is clarifying it, that it's not exactly the regular oyer of Seder Shtalshalus in the world. Neides Mikdash is definitely higher than the regular oyer, but nevertheless it's still associated with the regular oyer in the world. It's a oyer bekeli, an oyer where the idea is that there's going to be a place which will be a keli for this revelation of spirituality, of godliness. That's the light of Neides Mikdash, and therefore it's in a special place and in a special time period which is a keli for this revelation. And the Rebbe therefore, B'shas as Welt is in a matzah from Golus, Helem v'Hester, when the world is in a condition of Golus, when there's a concealment, Dan is Neres HaMikdash B'Telos. So this revelation, which could only be in a place where there is revelation, and there's a place that's a keli for this revelation. So otherwise, when you get to a place of darkness where revelation doesn't reach, so it's batel. Over there is no, the godliness of this level is not sensed there. Mashenke Neres Chanukah v'zeh brengen, that is, the Oyer Atzmi, Shalamayla Mishtalshalos. Chanukah brings down the essence of light that's higher than any level of Ishtalshalos. The Rebbe is in them the Shaykh Ken Shinuyim. In this level of light, there's no changes, there's no difference in the time, in the place, in the condition. It's a keli, it's not a keli. It comes in every place. It shines, even in a condition, in a place which is absolute concealment. And even more so, they could transform the darkness itself into light. So here, the Rabbi explains the connection to Asara b'Teves. The myth is move on the Shayches from Teves to the Tzayma city. This is the connection of the theme of the Aved of the month of Teves to the fast. And the pasuk is referred to the fast of the 10th month, which is Asara b'Teves. Varum, because das is dem Tzayim of Aschalas v'Sheirish Kol Inyan HaGolus. This fast represents the root and the beginning of the entire concept of Golus, because this is when the siege was placed on the city, and this began then the Churban of the first and then second Beis HaMikdash. represents the Inyan of Golus B'chlal. Bedugma v'dekriris von Chodesh Teves, and the Golus is similar to the month, which is a time of concealment, the coldness of the month of Teves. V'bepashtus, that is, as it is literally what happened. As the Matzah of Yerushalayim, the siege that was placed on the city of Yerushalayim, which began at the 10th of Teves, this is the beginning and what caused all of the following things that happened that brought to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. On the Inyan HaTzayim is, what's the idea of fasting on this day? The Avedas HaTshuvah. It's in order to do Tshuvah, on this destruction and exile. Biz, as das is mahapech, dem Tzayim Atzmai, the ultimate purpose is of Golus, and specifically of this fast, is to transform the actual fast day itself, to be a day of joy and gladness and a Yom Tov. So here, this day, Asara b'Teves, represents the darkness, but then really to reveal the truth and the Eibishter and the joy that there is in this darkness gufa. This also is the connection here to the Alter Rebbe Chav Dalet Teves, as the Rebbe explains here. That Inyan HaKeridus is oich da in koiches hanefesh. This idea of coldness that there is in the world in general is also in the koiches hanefesh, in a person's faculties, in the different koiches of a person. And das is the seichel anushi. What's the coldest thing in a person? Human intellect. Kepiska ma yedua, there's a word that says na yem yom, es is nito azak kalte zach, vi seichel ativi and seichel anushi. There's nothing as cold as someone that's just using his seichel, just thinking through things intellectually. The human intellect, which could be very indifferent to a subject that he's analyzing and then thinking about, but not necessarily does it move him or touch him, have any meaning to him. It's just the idea, the concept. That's seichel. Der Heiftu von Gilui, Teres, Chassidus, Chabad, durch dem Alten Rebbe. What was the big accomplishment of the revelation of the Alter Rebbe when he brought Chassidus? Miyasat Chassidus Chabad, the Alter Rebbe founded Chassidus Chabad, which means the intellect, bringing Chassidus into the intellect. As was so it consists of this, was abgetragen. In Yoni Emune, in Seichel Aleki, in Levushi Asaga. The Alter Rebbe brought down the things that we know and we believe with real faith in that Eibishter that comes from the Neshama, but he brought this all down, and also he brought down godly seichel, not the human, regular seichel of a person, but what the Neshama understands, and he brought all that down that a person should be able to understand and comprehend this and with his regular human seichel. That the human intellect person which should be able to understand with his mind godly matters, and even that in his mind matters of emunah, of faith, should resonate in his mind. And to use the expression that it says there in Ayim Yom, when the seichel ativi versteht a hasaga elekis, when you have human intellect that understands a godly idea, is das der emesse tchias hamesim. That's the true idea of tchias hamesim, reviving something which is dead, which is cold and indifferent, bringing godliness into this place. That's the real accomplishment of the Alter Rebbe, that he brought the emunah and the intensity of godliness into seichel, into the human intellect. Das ist the Sheiches von dem Yom HaIlula von Alten Rebbe. So this explains the connection of the Yartzeit of the Alter Rebbe, when Kol Maisa, V'Terasai, V'Avidasai, Yeshavet Koyim Echayav. The Yartzeit of a Rebbe is a time when all of his work in this world and all of his Torah in this world, that he worked all his lifetime, Shteim B'Tachlis HaShleimus, it's in its utmost level of perfection in that time. Tzu, Chodesh Teves, this is connected to the theme of what the month of Teves represents. Durch Maisa, V'Terasa, V'Avidasai, through the Alter Rebbe's Aveda and Torah in this world, von Alten Rebbe, hat sich getan, what was accomplished. So to use again the Lashon of Rashi regarding the month of Teves, as Mipnei Atzina, that it's because of the cold of this month. Von dem Moyech Hakara, Bilti Misragish Gufa, it's the actual human intellect itself, which doesn't get moved and doesn't get excited, but it's that intellect of the mind itself, so Areis Kumen, dem Guf, Nene, he itself should come and recognize and understand the greatness of the Eibishter, and he should bring the great Hana, the great pleasure to the Eibishter himself, the Hana, V'chamimus de Kedusha, to reveal the true pleasure and the true warmth of holiness in the world.